Yo, welcome to Dnb20 podcast. I'm joined by Nottingham's own DJ Slipz. What's happening, mate? You good?
Yeah, all good, man. All good. Just out here living,
Loving it.
Man.
Do you want to introduce yourself to those that may not be aware of what you're about and what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm Slipz, aka Slippington. I'm a DJ for Basslayerz, and I also work with Low Down Deep, run events, and the usual that a DJ producer is meant to do these days.
In other words, you are out here doing your thing.
I am out here. I'm trying to be.
Yeah, mate. You're doing well, mate. So you, as you mentioned there, you've got an event. I want to speak a little bit more about your event. Is that based in Nottingham predominantly?
Yeah, I mean, we have done other events in a few other events in other cities and stuff, but yeah, predominantly the event that we run, Basslayerz, is in Nottingham, and we hold it at the Irish Centre. It's something that we originally did just to sort of give ourselves a platform to play in our own city, and it's sort of developed from there, and it is what it is now. I think we won a best promoter at the Drum and Bass Awards in 2017. Best breakthrough promoter, sorry.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's just sort of like it's just it's built up over the years. We've been doing it for about maybe in about 5 to 6, 7, 8 years. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, it's been running now for quite a while, and it's something that has, I suppose, helped us get to where we're at now. It's an extra sort of thing that you have to do nowadays, I suppose.
Yeah. It seems like you've got to bring different strings to the bow these days to be successful, but you guys have gone about it the right way, that's for sure. And yeah, time fucking flies as well, doesn't it? Like, 1 minute you're starting a new project, the next minute you're five years deep, and you're thinking, where the fuck has that time gone? It's just gone and flown by.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's what I said like a minute ago when I was just about to say, like, I'm not even sure how long it is, but yeah, I think it's actually longer than I think. Yeah. It's been running for quite. Like, I remember I was talking to Az the other day, and he was literally like saying to me, like, yeah, I think you first booked me 5 years ago, and I was like, flipping out, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, time flies, man.
Definitely does. So how did you get started in music and stuff? Like, what was the beginnings of DJ Slipz and the DJing side and the production side?
Do you know what, right? Like, I've always been like a sportman when I was younger and stuff like that, but I always had like a love for music. I've always liked music. I think at one point when I was younger, I had a few like drum lessons and stuff like that. So like that's sort of how it started, like, just listening to flipping chart music and stuff like that, and music my mum used to play around the house, you know what I'm saying? And I suppose it's just sort of like developed from there. When I was about 15, I got some like belt drive decks. I used to have a lot of people around my house.
What were they?
They were Sound Labs. They were.
So everyone had the Sound Labs.
Yeah, like, and I mean, no rubbish, but I had a pair of decks, and everyone used to come around my house. I used to like garage and grime. That's what I started on back in the day, and I used to MC as well, believe it or not. So I've like always delved between, trying to DJ and trying to MC, and sort of grime and garage was what we started on. Used to have people come around my house, flipping loads of us. Do you know what I mean? Like 20 man in there, just flipping, doing sets, pissing my mum off. You know what I mean? To be fair though, I think a lot of the time when there was 20 man in there, like, she was out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Quick, she's gone out. Come round.
Yeah, she's gone out, lads. Come on, come round. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, that's how I first started to sort of get into music. And then when I started to, get into it serious, I suppose, is when I went to a music college in Nottingham called Confetti. Okay. And I think I wanted to do it, but it was just one of them things where I think, you know, your mum's on you, like, you need to go and do something. And I think I did a college course the year before and got kicked out for some shit. Yeah. And then I just thought, right, let me just do what I want to do. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I went and did the music, and I was more into the MC in them times. And cut a long story short, Spider used to run MC course. It was like, so like at the college, obviously you do your courses, and this was like a sort of thing that you could like take part in if you wanted, like extra courses that he did there.
Yeah.
I already knew Spider slightly because his son's in my year at school, and he was one of my sort of mates growing up, like good mates.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
yeah, like he used to play for the football team and stuff like that, and Spider used to come down sometimes. So I knew who he was, sort of thing, but I was never like really close with him. So I started doing that with Spider.
Yeah.
And after a little bit, like he sort of pulled me aside and he was like, yo, you're good, you know, like I like what you're coming with and stuff like that. And he invited me up to a studio, which was his name's Daps. Some of you might know him. Do you know what I mean? He does a lot of engineering now, and I'll get onto it in a minute. But I eventually started like working with him and making tunes. But yeah, so he took me up there, and me, and funny enough, I think I recorded a tune the first day, and it was just me and Spider was whatever. We had a tune that Daps made, etc. And then
you both on vocals.
In the end,
yeah? On vocals.
Yeah. I vocaled it, and then from then on, I started working with Spider, going up to Daps's, and I did a lot of I did quite a lot of grime tunes, like. Almost, I wouldn't call it an album, but it was like a bit of a mixtape or whatever. I went up there, recorded a lot of tunes with Spider, and Juice Man was on one, and things just weird like combinations that you might never think, you know. Like I never did a tune with Trigger or anything like that, but I remember Trigger used to come up to the studios once or twice and record him and stuff. Well, like, I'll get onto when we started doing the music together, me and Daps. But yeah, like that's how I sort of first got into the music and really seriously, and that sort of developed into a point where I remember I sat down one day and I had all these tracks, a lot of them with Spider and other people like local MCs from the area, and I just decided it wasn't me. It's just I didn't want to MC anymore, you know. I was around Daps a lot, and I'm not quite sure how it happened, but we sort of like must have just sat round one day, and like I think Daps, by the way, used to make drum and bass.
Okay.
He never used to really like master or engineer what he does now. He was just, you know, making tunes with Spider. He had a lot of tunes with Spider that actually probably never came out, all of them, but there was a lot of working being done there. And, you know, like Spider vocal a lot of his stuff that he was, you know, putting out, like the tune he did with Skepta, like the Balaclava lyrics and the Benny Page tunes, etc. A lot of them things got done at Daps's. And in the end, I think me and Daps sort of sat down, and I said to him, look, like, you know, you're doing your drum and bass. Why don't we spend 2-3 days a week sort of making this music called Bassline, which had just sort of come out in the last year or two. And we sort of like, obviously me being a garage and grime man, I sort of like looked at the music and I just felt like it was just a vibe, the music. It wasn't too deep, like, because at the time I used to look at drum and bass like, well, I could never make that. I used to look at his drums and see like 58 different drums and things. Like, you know what I mean? And I was like, well, I'm never going to be able to do that. I wasn't too much into drum and bass at the time, like, so we sort of sat down and we decided, like, let's start trying to make some bassline tunes. And I'm going on a bit here. I'm sort of telling the whole story, but I might as well carry on.
Carry on, mate. Feel free. Feel free.
Yeah, me and Dap, I used to go up to, he lives in Melton Mowbray in Leicester, and I used to go up to Daps's like every morning and wake up early, which you're probably surprised because you know I don't wake up early. Yeah, but back in them days, I used to get
when
up
when we're saying early, what are you saying?
This was like 8, yeah, I mean, it wasn't your early, but it was still like 8 o'clock, you know. I used to get the bus about 8, 8:15, something like that. Yeah. And it was like an hour bus, and I used to go like nearly every day up to Daps's, and we used to sit there and we made a few bassline tunes.
Yeah.
And then they started to get played like a little bit, and it was like, oh, this is all right. And that sort of continued, and we started to make these beats, and then we did a few with Spider, like the Balaclava tune. We did the Balaclava bassline version.
Yeah.
And I think it got played by Cameo. Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
nice.
it got played. Sorry, so Bomber has a few brothers. One of his younger brothers, he has a guy called Michael Hollick, who's like a cameraman. He's quite a big cameraman. He films for like Jake Bugg and stuff now and stuff like that, and BBC, I think. And he worked at BBC One Extra, and he had it on his phone or something. And Russ Kwame was like, "What's that?" And he was like, "Bam, bam, bam." And then I think it got played by Russ Kwame first. And then a few other people started to play it like on Radio 1 and stuff, like, or One Extra. And I'm trying to think who it was. Like, I think like Kissy Sellout and Annie Nightingale or something. And then Cameo hit me up and started ringing me up. He was like, look, I want to do a release and stuff like that. And I think we had like a little white label out with him at one point. I can't even remember what tunes was on there.
So was that,
I don't even
like
know whether Balaclava was on there, to be fair. It might have been like the instrumentals to it or something.
Okay. Was that like your first sort of taste? Is this your first taste of like releasing music with sort of a proper label with mainstream radio support? In
all honesty, it wasn't that proper. Like, I can't remember the full ins and outs of it, but I remember like something happened and there might have been something. I think he put the instrumental out in the end, and it was sort of like a white label, so it wasn't like a massive release. I don't think loads got done by it. You know, it didn't sell loads or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that was my first sort of like, you know, first bit where I was making tunes and they got played on radio and stuff like that. You know, like I did make a few grime tunes, by the way, before, which I forgot to say. Like, I did make tunes even when I MC'd at my house, like, because I was going to college, I was shit, basically, you know what I mean? And like, you know, I learned a lot from Daps, and that's how we sort of started making the bass line. Yeah, so they was like the first sort of like tunes that got played on radio, a little bit of recognition, but we didn't DJ, you see. Like, we never DJ'd out, we just had tunes, and it was just like, we weren't really involved in the scene. We knew a few people in the scene, like Virgo's from Nottingham, who's quite big bass line, well, he's very big, like, so we knew him and stuff like that. But yeah, we never really DJ'd, and we did that for quite a few years. And I spent a lot of time in the studio, like learning off Daps and stuff like that, and vocal in Spider and other artists, as I said, like Juice Man and Bassman been there, and Trigger and stuff like that. So Daddy Freddy, so a lot of Nottingham artists.
There's some legendary names in there just by saying those people.
Passing through flipping Malcolm Mowbray, mate. You know,
there's some big names in there.
Yeah, like it was fun, and sometimes it was fun. It wasn't that serious. It was just like, let's see where we can go. You know, spent a lot of time doing it, but it was a lot. I think I learned a lot of Daps making beats by, you know, for me to make beats. Well, when I was making beats at the time, I wasn't the best, like I say. So me sitting there and observing Daps make beats, and then started to work with him and seeing all the things, I learned a lot. I feel like in that period, like that. So that sort of continued. We did a lot of tunes, like I say, with them artists, and then Spider. There's like a group called Axe Guy. I'm not sure if you have ever heard of them. They actually started on drum and bass, I think, and then they went to breakbeat, and they was quite big. They sort of played at a lot of festivals, and I think they did like music for the Ali G show. They worked with Ragga Twins a lot, stuff like that. Yeah. And this is coming towards the end of the sort of bass line, because we was getting a few like bits of interest like coming in from people like not really in the bassline scene, but like, I think they looked at our baseline was obviously baseline, but we did have like obviously Daps involved, so there was a little bit of a different sound there to your usual baseline tunes. Don't get it twisted, some of them, you know, were quite baseline, because in the end we did use some like sort of baseline packs, and it made it a little bit more baseline. But a lot of the tunes as well that we made weren't typical baseline sample packs and stuff, so it didn't always sound the same. So we was getting like a little bit of interest, like from Axe Guy, who Spider worked with, who made breakbeat, and they was quite interested in the tracks. And like, because it was a similar tempo, they was sort of interested in playing it. There was another guy on Kiss FM as well, I forget his name, it might have been like Jay Cunning, like he was playing a few tunes, and I think he was something to do with like the breakbeat sort of scene. So even though he was making bassline, it was crossing over a little bit. There was another guy from Nottingham who I forget his name. It was like a manager. He had a little bit of interest, and they sort of wanted to make what we was making, but a little bit like slower and in this other style, which I think is actually quite popular now. But then it was a little bit more of unheard of. I wouldn't even know what genre it was. It was still the same similar music, but it was a little bit slower and a less gimmicky, like the bass line, because we used to have like the little voice in there saying your DJ name, production, and all, you know what I mean? It was all that. But we never went with that or whatever. But in the end, we started working with Axcar, which was quite big for us. And in the end, I mean, to cut a long story short, they sort of like, we started a label together, which was like half theirs and half ours. And we had a release. It was called Basslayerz, actually.
Yeah.
You know, I'll get onto the name in a bit, but like, it was called Basslayerz, the label. I think we only had 1 or 2 releases, and we did a remix for them. And then like, me and Daps just stopped doing it. Like, I stopped doing music for a bit. Like, we lost a lot of tunes and music and stuff like that. So like, it all basically ended up stopping and whatever. But yeah, you know, we achieved quite a few things in there, and then I sort of had a break for a couple of years. And then basically what happened is I got a message of some people from Italy, I think in about 2011 or 12. And it was like, yeah, Slipz and Daps, rare, this and that. Like, we love your tunes and whatever. And it was just like, we want to book you. And it was like, I was like, look, I don't even do that anymore. It was like, well, we just want to book you then if you want. So like, I think in the end, like, I think I said to Bomber, look, I've got a booking, and I told them, I said, look, if you get him a flyer, and I split my money with Bomber, and we went out there, and like, in between that time, we was like sort of talking about doing something multi-genre. I think we was just planning to sort of go on a local radio station. It wasn't pirate now, because it'd gone to like the internet radio, called Rogue FM. It might have been called something else before that as well, but like, yeah, so like, we got this booking, and from what I remember, we sort of like started everything from that booking. It was like, right, let's go and do a little mix and stuff like that. And the mix was actually like multi-genre. It was like garage, grime, dubstep, and a bit of bass line. And then like, I think the mix we did was just like, there was a 1 drum and bass bit tune on the end. Yeah. And when we went out there, we did something very similar at this booking. It was like quite a big booking, and we'd never really done anything before. I've always DJ'd, but I hadn't, like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it was like, we just went for it in a way. And like, I think in that set, we finished off with 1 or 2 drum and bass tunes. We did the night, we came home and everything. And then I remember me and Bomber like just going like, the drum and bass went off. You know what I mean? It was like, what are we doing? You know, we should do drum and bass. You already like a drum and bass MC. You worked with Spider for years. Bomber's always had his bits back in the day where he was on and off it. And so we started to do drum and bass. Bearing in mind, why all that other stuff was happening, i.e. at DATS, working with them people and whatever, in them sort of like long 8 years or whatever it was, I used to go out with Spider to drum and bass raves. And obviously he had bookings like once every week or once every couple of weeks or whatever. And we used to go down there. I'd always be with him, you know what I mean? And there'd be like 3 or 4 of us. And we used to go there and just get in a rave. He'd perform. We'd have a little one drink and a spliff, and we'd go, you know what I mean? And that was that. So that, I was already getting involved in the drum and bass, but it wasn't really me. I was just going out to go out, you know, and that's where I feel I started to get like the love for it. And then obviously we did that set and we decided, let's just do drum and bass. So we then got a few bookings. I think a few people wanted to book Bomber, and he was like, look, I'm working with Slipz, whatever. We did a few smaller bookings, a lot like in Birmingham and stuff like that, like working like on same artists as like Spartans and just a lot of them sort of Birmingham like artists. So so yeah, we've done that now. Started to do a few bookings. Obviously, like on one night we was playing and Spider was on there, but he was like doing another set, and like Spider I think just sat there, and and watched us or whatever. And then like when we was on the way home, he was just like, yo, I want to be in. And we was like, well, let's do it. You know what I mean? He goes, I want to be in. Like, I like you two smash that tonight. Like, why am I not doing it with you? Like, let's do this thing. Let's do a thing. You know what I mean? And I was like, all right, then. And Basslayerz sort of went from there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, so we started getting a few smaller bookings like that. A lot of it was like people trying to book Spiders. Spiders like, listen, I'm working with these two man. Like, book me with these. You know, we'll come down for cheap. Or whatever, or we'd just get a little wage, and we just went around and we just started playing a lot like in Birmingham and stuff like that, and it just sort of like the Basslayerz thing sort of built up from there, you know what I'm saying? And once we started to get a few bookings and stuff like that, I then decided to sort of like let me get back on the production, you know. Yeah. And I started to try and make drum and bass for like a little while before I put anything out. I tried a few things and I wasn't very happy with it, and you know, and it all sort of like led from there, really. One thing I'll add as well is like the name Basslayerz. I've had that since school. Like that's something that when I was on work experience, I did.
That was a long time ago as well. You're talking about school. I, mean, I know how old you are. I know how old you are.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did work experience, I think, in the second or last year of school, and I did it at Helly Hansen. You know, the people who made the coats back in the day.
I thought you was going to say. I thought you was going to say you had work experience in the 70s. Then.
No, not quite. Not quite. But yeah, so I did this work experience at Helly Hansen, and they made the coats and that. But I worked in the office. It was shit. You know, when you think you're gonna like. Yeah. I'm going to go Helly Hansen, and you thought it was going to be good and you're going to get a coat and all that. It was like...
Your work experience was a hell of a lot better than mine. I worked in a garden centre feeding fish.
Well, there you go. But you know what? Like, that probably worked out better than mine, because what I didn't really realise is I didn't go to any Helly Hansen factory, or I wasn't around any of the garments or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I was literally in an office, and it was like, oh, God. And I remember one day they said to me, go in the showroom. They had a showroom where people come and look at new stuff or whatever. When you go in the showroom, and I had to like arrange some stuff and hang it up or something. And in the end, right, one of the things that I seen that I had to arrange was like an undergarment.
Right.
That I don't know what it was for, but you know, like the thin sort of like, you know, them long training kind of shirts. You might wear them underneath or whatever, like long sort of thin top. And it was called a Basslayer with an E. And that is where I got the name Basslayerz from, because I literally, as soon as I seen it, I just thought, that sounds bad, like laying the bass, you know what I mean? And from there, when that time was on about, when people used to come around my house, from my mates to other people, it was just like Basslayerz. And I remember I was at school and we all gave each other a name. Like Slipz means absolutely nothing to me. It's just stuck with me. Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't got a cool story. It's just literally like, I think we was in a science lesson or something, and there was 4 of us on a table and was like, let's all choose our DJ and MC names, you know what I mean? And I remember looking on the wall, and it said on a, you know, like at school, they used to hang like people's work up and stuff. Yeah. Not my work, but like it'd be on the wall, like from years ago or whatever. And it just said Slippy on there. And I was just like, my name's Slippy. You know what I mean? And then that developed to Slipz. You get what I'm saying? And then it developed to Slippington and whatever else. Slippy finger, slippy nipple, mate. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's, you know, I'd like to say I cut it short, but that was quite long. But that's how I sort of got into music and found the Basslayerz name, and you know, the my name, and how I sort of met Bomber and Spider, you know. And what I didn't mention is as well, actually, what I missed out is when I was doing these stuff with Spider, obviously Spider knew Bomber, and that's how I got to know Bomber. Yeah. And I started like hanging around with Bomber a lot, and Bomber used to pick me up from studio and stuff like that, you know. So I did forget that's how I met Bomber, you know, because I didn't really mention that.
So it's nice that yous have basically all been in and around each other, sort of growing up in one way or another before coming together and actually making a crew. You was already in and around each other anyway, through one medium and another. You was obviously friends with Spider's son, and then going to courses with him, so that's how you knew him, and then going to studio and stuff, and Bomber was friends with Spider. So the foundation's already there before you've even started working together.
Exactly.
Which
You know,
it goes a long way, doesn't it?
Yeah, like I feel like that's something that we have that's quite strong. Like regardless of what happens, like
your friends
we
first,
don't really,
and then
we're mates.
Yeah.
Like we always call it like it's a family thing. Like
Yeah.
Basslayerz is like we all know each other's families. Like we are like if we all quit tomorrow or whatever happens, like we'll still just be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just that we all do music together.
Yeah.
Like obviously I knew Spider before I did music, like you know, because of his son and stuff like that. But like and obviously we've all bonded through doing music together, but we all are friends, like first of all. So it's like it's quite a good sort of base to have, you know what I mean? Like there's a good foundation there, you know. It's not just a put together thing, which some people might think, you know.
Definitely. And I mean, you was talking about the house parties and stuff like that, and people coming around to your yard and you having a mix and stuff like that. I remember doing that shit when I was younger, and it was always, that was like them, some of those house parties, even not just a mix of 20 people. I mean, when I was sort of 15, we set up our own pirate radio station, and that was the equivalent of the same thing. We'd literally get 20 people round, and we're doing radio shows from someone's fucking living room.
Well, I you know, obviously I tried to cut it short, but pirate radio was something that got me into music a lot more. I used to sit there on a Friday night when you was, you know, you came in from going down the shops or whatever you was doing, or the night you didn't go out, and we would put, or myself, whoever's there, would put pirate radio on, you know, and like, I used to love that, but I was never at a point where I could get on like pirate radio. Like I was a bit young then. Yeah. By the time I got a bit older, it sort of fizzled out a bit. But that was something that sort of got me into it. And I think that's probably why we did the sets at my house and stuff like that, you know. Like, I've always loved radio as well. Like, pirate radio, like, back in the day when I was younger, you know, at school, like, junior school, me and my mates used to, like, I mean, sure, you know, you're my age. Like, we used to get cassettes. And, you know, you put, like, the 2 bits of paper in the top. Like of like now fucking 32
record
and you
over
it.
If
you cover it, so we used to do that, put it in, and like we'd sit there and just pretend we're doing a radio show. Like if I listen back to it now, it'd be absolutely pathetic because it was about 10, but like all them kind of things there.
People are going to want to hear these, by the way. They're going to be on your case going, you need to show us one of those sets from when you were at school.
I had one. I haven't even got the first tune I ever
and
made.
these grime tunes. People are going to want to hear these grime tunes of you MCing. Right? They're going to want to hear that.
There is one on YouTube, actually, but let's not go there.
Everyone go and search that right now and go and listen to Slipz busting bars to a grime tune, and make that mistake, you will be pleasantly surprised, I reckon, because I've heard you spit a few bars and you're pretty good. Your goalkeeping skills, on the other hand, when you're playing football, well, that leaves a little bit to
saying that, I've still got the broke elbow, mate, you know.
Still busted. Well, I can't say nothing.
Look at that, we're getting there.
Fucking hell, I can't say shit. I've played football twice in 2 weeks and injured myself twice in 2 weeks.
You know what it is, you're getting old and you ain't got the fitness your mind's telling you to do one thing and your fitness is saying no, you know what I mean? No,
I'm still 18 years old. I'll still make that ball tear. There goes a muscle.
Yeah, exactly, mate. You know how it goes, Charles. I've had to retire about 4 times, mate, you know what I'm saying?
I keep kidding myself. Nope, I'm going to play forever. I'm going to join a new team, and it's just not going to happen.
Well, we all said that about 3 months ago. Let's start a Basslayerz Power League team, and then Az took a penalty at me and I break my arm. Do you know what I mean? It's like my elbow. So yeah.
Yeah, it's not what it's all cracked up to be, is it? Getting old, it fucking wears you down. So what have you, obviously with the fucking COVID shit and stuff being locked off and whatnot, what have you been doing?
Honestly, I mean, I've seen a lot of people write stuff on Facebook and rare and this and that, and I've not done a lot in the first 3 months or so. I felt like, obviously, all the drum and bass started popping off recently. You know, we've got on the agent in the last 2-3 years, and we've been getting a lot more bookings. And like, it actually started to get a bit too much for me. Not everyone knows me, I'm a bit of a joker and whatever, but it just got a little bit like, it was just too much going on. And
you had a lot of
without
bookings.
sounding like a
You was
knob,
being booked
I like to
fucking
get
everywhere.
back to it. Say that again, Charles.
You was being booked fucking everywhere. Basslayerz as a crew, you was getting banned individually as well. I was seeing some Slipz bookings popping up. It's a lot of bookings and a lot of travelling. It's a lot of hard work. Balance that with making music, planning sets and stuff. And I know the festival thing was taking off a lot as well. You was getting a lot of festival bookings. I mean,
like we was busy. Like really busy for like before the COVID for like 2, 3, 4 years. Like even before the agency, we probably had more work. Just not more work, but more bookings, but like less paid. And you know what I'm saying? Obviously they structured it a lot better, but like we had a lot of work going on. And with that, you know, I don't, like I said a minute ago, I don't want to sound like a knob, because like, I mean, I'm at such a lower level compared to some people, but like the inboxes and stuff like that, I love to get back to everyone, but it just started to get on top. And like, once you leave a few messages and whatever, and you know, you got all these different social medias, all these messages, and that bit for me just started to get on top. And it like, I wake up every day and think, oh, I've got to message all these, but I've got to do that. And I sort of was getting to a point with it where I was getting a little bit lost in everything that I had to do. So for me, I used this lockdown in the way that I felt I needed, you know, to, in the way I needed to do it. And I basically took about 3 months of just chilling, as you know, playing a lot of PlayStation, spending time with my kid, you know.
But that's the other thing as well. You've had a kid recently. I say recently. Not
well, he's
recently,
2 now, but
if you're here, there and everywhere and you're working, fucking doing sets, making tunes, doing loads of bookings, everything like that, why not take a break when you can? Because it's different situations for different people. You ain't going to get, if things go back to normal tomorrow, you're going to be booked here, there and everywhere, and it's all going to be 100% go. Whereas, you know, at the minute, you can take that break, you can sit back, you can relax, and why the fuck not? You've worked hard. And you deserve to be able to do that.
That's what it was for me. I'm one of these guys who just pushes myself, and it's like, I knew everyone was having a break. No one's playing at raves. So I felt like this is a perfect time for me, as bad as what was going on, for me just to have 3 months and get my head right again and just sort of be a bit more, you know, catch up on my messages and stuff and whatever. And like, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, if you're not doing this and you're not doing that in lockdown, and it's like, you're not really doing anything, and you're not, you know what I mean? And all that crap, you know what I mean? And it's like, for me, you use the time how you need. If you're in a position where you need to make more music and better yourself and whatever, I'm not saying I don't, because I don't make a lot of music. I'm sure we'll get onto that. I'm not the biggest producer in the world. I don't class myself as a big producer. Like, I'm not, it's not, you know, my biggest love in the world. I do it, I enjoy it, but I'm not, you know, someone who bangs out tunes all the time. So like, you know, I always need to make more music, but for me, I just needed the time to chill out, spend some time with my son, and that's what I've done. And like, I think lockdown is just use your time wisely in whatever you need to do, whether that be make tunes, learn something, get a job, better yourself, whatever you need to do. For me, it was just to chill out for 3 months and get my head right again. And that's sort of like what I did. And like the last couple of months, I've slowly got on it. I'm trying to finish a tune a week, you know. And that's what I'm on now. I've been working a lot with the label and the artists that are coming out on the label, trying to get the tunes together, which is also a bit dodgy, because a lot of people, I felt, for me personally, like there's no right, everything I'm saying, there's no right and wrong. I always like to say that it's your own way. Same thing with the lockdown. But for me, I didn't want to release a lot of the tunes that I had during the lockdown. I have now started to release a few, because I felt like people already knew those tunes and they had been played, and it was okay for them to come out. But I don't really want to be releasing sort of like fresh releases on the label that sort of DJs haven't got and played out yet. So like, that's why the label took a little bit of a halt, you know, for a few months and stuff. But now I'm back on it. I'm trying to line certain releases up. I'm not going to overdo it, you know.
Well, with time going on the way it has done, I mean, obviously I released music and stuff as well, and I did my first album and released my first album during lockdown with the COVID thing, which I know was a massive risk. And it was a risk because of, obviously, you can't get the DJ support out in the clubs and the raves and stuff like that. Are people going to be buying music? Are they going to be as interested because they can't go raving? And hindsight is a wonderful thing. It didn't do as well as it should have done.
Yeah.
The risk backfired, and it didn't kind of get the support and the traction it needed to. And I think it is a massive contribution because the raves weren't going on, so you couldn't get the DJ support.
The vibe's not there.
Yeah,
the vibe's not there, and that's for me. I'm a vibes man. I always say, I haven't actually said it here, but I'm a vibes man. Like even music, I don't like to take it too serious. I like to look at the vibe and go, that might not be the finished product, mate, but that is a vibey tune, you know. And stuff. So I'm a vibes man, and it's like, I suppose if you, like I say, there's no right or wrong. You know, you put music out, but it could be. You know, there's no raves and the vibe's not there.
It's different. It's different situations for different people, isn't it?
As it is usually. I don't know, but that's how I feel about it.
It's different situations for different people. I mean, for me, obviously, the lockdown.
You've got to do what you want to do in life.
Yeah, the lockdown was a good chance for me to sit down and concentrate on music, whereas the time that I could spend in the studio was completely different to, say, somebody else who could spend more time in the studio.
Well, there you go. You got your full-time job. I'm lucky enough that I quit my job about 2 years ago, so I have a lot more time. For someone like you, you're like, bam, I've got all this studio time, and that's what you did, and that's, you know, you used your time how you wanted to use it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there is no right and wrong, like you say. It's different situations for different people. What's right for somebody might not be right for the next person. There's no wrong answer to it, is there?
No, because you're your own person, and you do what you want to do, and that's what matters. You know, all the other stuff's just crap. You know, it's just waffle talk.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's all personal preference. You know, but yeah, like, so I've been sort of like, in the last month or two, just trying to get like a few releases back together and stuff like that, and just start sort of scheduling certain things like that, and trying to just make a tune a week, and that's me at the moment. I suppose that's what I'm on at the moment. Obviously, it's difficult to make music, like I was saying, for me, because I like to make music and go and play it out and feel the vibe and the energy and come back. You know, it's like going to watch football.
Yeah.
You come back, you jump on your PS and you play FIFA and you play amazing because you've just watched the football game, and it's you know what I mean? It's the same thing, isn't it? You go to a rave, you sort of you play a tune out and you come back and you got that vibe and you make music again, don't you? And at the moment, it's for me, I struggle because I am like a vibes guy, you know what I'm saying?
But also there's that thing as well, when you're going out and you're doing DJ sets, there could be a tune you're not sure on, you play it out in a rave, and all of a sudden, you see that tune in a completely different light, and you're like, well, fucking hell, I'm fully on board with this tune now because I've played it in that rave and got the reaction that I did, or caught the vibe of the tune in the moment. Whereas you're sitting indoors in the studio listening to it, you don't catch that same vibe. So it kind of, there could be tunes that could be the biggest tune you've ever done that won't come out because you can't catch a vibe in the studio, but you could have potentially caught that vibe in the rave. Yeah,
exactly. And, you know, that's music for you, you know, like, how many times have you been to a rave and said, what's that tune you're playing to your mate or whatever?
Yeah.
And then you like go home and you've got it. Like, I listen to that at home on my monitors or my headphones, and I want really feeling the vibe. And you're in a club and you feel it, and it's just a completely different vibe, you know?
Yeah. So you were saying earlier on about you've got a record label and you was holding off releasing certain tunes and stuff, and you're just getting back onto putting out a couple of the tunes that you've had in your schedule that people have recognised and have heard out and stuff before. What's the latest release you've just released on your label?
We've just released a 2-track release from Discreet, which was his first sort of release on the label. The main track, I would say, was Feeling High. That was a track, it got to #1 on all genres on Juno, and
nice, congratulations.
that was a tune that I felt I could release because I'd been playing it for like a year or maybe nearly almost 2 years, you know.
Yeah.
So that was something that we did decide to release and put out, and in the end, it worked out nice, you know. And you know, it's #1 on Juno and stuff like that, which is nice to see. It's not a massive thing, you know. You don't go to sleep,
nice, still an accolade.
Yeah, it just shows that he's doing well.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was a funny release, going back on the Vibes thing, because I first like linked up with Discreet. Like, he'd never had any releases from what I know, and like he started to send me some tunes. He sent me that one, and I was just like, wow, like,
yeah, that
is a tune that MCs can just rip apart. You know, there's a lot of room on it. I come from being an MC. I feel like I know a good tune that MCs like. I feel that I DJ for MCs. I'm quite a MC-friendly DJ. I'm not the guy that wants to be there and like, you're my host and you say this and that. Like, I work with 2 MCs, and I actually, you know, I can mix many styles, but with Basslayerz, I like to mix for the MCs. You know, I might drop. If you listen to the way I DJ for Basslayerz, is I drop quite a lot of tunes because I know as an MC, you don't want to be chatting over double drops all the time. It's just a bit messy, you know?
Yeah.
People do it. There's nothing wrong with it. But I just knew from my time as being an MC, you just want to hit that drop. When the tune drops and you hit it sweet, it's nice. So, like, when I heard that tune, I was like, wow. And he didn't believe in it that much, to be fair. He was like, yeah, whatever. I don't feel, you know, and especially by the time it was like being talked about coming out, I think he felt like the production could have been a lot better on it and stuff like that. But I just said to him, like, listen, you're going to get better all the time. You know what I mean? You've got to literally get to a point where you're just going to put music out. Yeah. Try and be as happy as you can with it and just keep improving it. You know, everyone works different. Again, I've spoken to producers who are like, no, I'm not having that on my catalogue. Do you know what I mean? And they're very sure about the ways. But I just said to him, look, this tune's wicked. And I think when he's seen how many times that I played it, every single set, all the recordings come out with all these MCs from Bassman to X-Man. X-Man's son ended up doing a lyric on it on one of Logan's shows. And all that exposure, and people were talking about it. I thought, wow, like, you know, maybe he did sit back himself and think, like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe that's not my best produced tune, but music is a vibe.
I remember getting on your case after I heard it, and I was like,
you did,
what is that tune? I need to get hold of that tune. And then found out that you was releasing it, and then boom, straight on your case, right? When can you send me that tune? Because it is a banger, and it is a very good tune. And
it's not the deepest tune you've ever heard. It's not the most complicated.
It's caught something. It's just caught something. Isn't it?
When I used to make bassline, there was a producer I think called Swifter, and he had like every time his tunes dropped, it used to say something like "complex simplicity." You know what I mean?
Well, I'm going to sue him. I'm going to sue him straight away. I'm going to get on his case now and sue him.
Yeah, that's it. I'm suing. Yeah, no, but like that's what I like, and it's the same with lyrics. Like, I used to like Skepta and Grime because, like, you know, he might not be the best and most complicated MC, but I just like the way they break things down simply. And like, for me, that tune was just a vibe. It was like, it wasn't the biggest tune ever. It wasn't the best production, but it just had that vibe. And I feel like that's something that I have. I class myself as like a selector. And a lot of the time I'm probably using my MC genes from back in the day and like going, right, this can work in the sets and stuff like that. And I feel like that was a good example of how music is just really a vibe, you know.
Well, the thing is,
tune's done quite well.
You can have a tune that is the best produced tune in the world, sounds amazing, but has got zero vibe. It's like you could argue the vibe of a tune is more important than anything else, because everything else you can bring up to scratch if you need to in certain different mediums and forms and get help and stuff like that. Something you can't recreate is a vibe. You can't fabricate a vibe. You've either got it or you haven't. The tune's either got a vibe or not.
You're 100% right. And I think as producers, when we make music, like, although we do make it for the ravers, the fans, whoever you are, if you got fans, whatever, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, at the same time, in the back of our head, there's always that voice saying, what other producers think of it. And I think sometimes that gets in the way. And you're like, you know, how many producers, like I do, and I know there is some, I'm a raver. You know, I love raving. You know me, like I go rave with 20 man, and people know me. They see me. I go innovation, even if I'm not playing there. I'll go there now. Like I'm not bothered. Like I just like to rave. So like,
definitely now.
yeah, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, like ravers don't think that deep. I think, and it is more about a vibe. I noticed, right, when I had that break from making garage and bassline or whatever, that little transition of 2-3 years where I didn't make anything. Like I got that vibe back for music, and that's one thing I don't like about producing music is like when you're so deep in it, it's hard to listen to music and just get the vibe. You're always like going, "Oh, that snare's a bit loud."
And analysing everything.
Yeah, you're looking at like Cubase blocks going across the screen when you're listening to music, and I don't like that. And sometimes I think when you make music, you got to think of it from the raver's perspective. Like they're not sat in a rave going, "Oh, that he should have EQ'd that snare at 250 hertz." You know what I mean? Like they don't, you know, that is important because obviously the it's not going to sound right in a club if it's not done that. But I feel like nowadays, the way music's gone is that can always be achieved in a way. Even if you can't achieve it yourself, there's someone there who can do a mix or a master for you, you know, until you learn how to do it yourself. So, for example, with that tune, I felt like that was one of them. And I do want to say the production wasn't bad on it.
No, it wasn't bad at all.
I just feel I never had a problem with it. I just feel like himself felt like I've got a lot better in the last year since I did that, and he was probably a bit iffy about it. But I think now it's come out, it's proved, you know.
That's a producer thing, though, isn't it? That's a producer thing, because I don't know. I would go out on a limb and say that you're the same as me. You listen to a tune you've made 6 months ago, and it's I can do so much better now. I'm a better producer than I am now. And
I listen to
6 months from now,
and think that.
Yeah, and 6 months from now, you're going to be saying exactly the same thing about the tune you said was better than the one 6 months before that. It's a constant evolving process, and I don't know. I feel like producers and stuff like that, you're never going to be happy. You're always going to feel like you could do better, you could do more, and it never ends. But that's part of pushing forward and becoming a better product of yourself.
That's what I'm saying, you see. I feel like half of us wouldn't even be here if we didn't put the music out. Like I'm not happy with any of the music I make. I feel like I don't get anything to what I want to make it. But you know, I probably wouldn't be here now if I didn't put my music out. So it's just you know, again, it's up to you. If you're one of them guys who's like, I've met people and I like people to have their own ideas and opinions. I've met people, I won't mention names, but they've said to me like, look, I know you like that tune, but I don't want to put anything out for like a year. Just let me like get better. And they've come back to me and like, yeah, I'm ready now. Do you know what I mean? And I rate that. Fair play to them. I was a bit like that in the first place, but I got to a point where I was like, look, you know, like just put something out. And I sort of did it that way and just sort of like, just went from there with it. Do you know what I'm saying? But yeah, you know, like that's where we're at with the label. That was the last release. We've got something coming out. I mean, I don't know when this is coming out, but it's out on the 14th, which is not going to be Monday in a couple of days, which is a Magenta release, which is another 2-track release. That's his second release on the label.
It's the 14th of September, by the way. If anyone's listening to this in the future, this is the 14th of September. This release is coming out. Yeah,
14th of September. Yeah, Magenta. It's one track called Rave and the other one called Drunk. And I mean, I haven't actually got anything scheduled at the moment. There's a few bits coming. I think there's like a Tej and a Khalil, and then you know, to name some other producers like that working with, it's like, you know, your Jappers. We've got a lad called J Select, obviously Discreet. I mean, I can't remember them all now, but we've got quite a few. Disruptor. You know, myself, Dispute. And then obviously like a lot of the releases on our label, like I've got Spider on, obviously Spider's part of the label, it's his label, so we do have a lot of vocals with Spider, and they're stacked up. I mean, there's so many to name. Like there's Benny Page tunes, and there's all sorts of tunes that have already been made. Alchemist, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of tunes with Spider that are coming out. I'm just trying to pace them in the right thing. The AC13 tune might get scheduled soon, which everyone keeps asking me about.
Yeah.
Warface, which I start a lot of the Basslayerz sets with, like you might have heard, which is basically AC13 and Spider. That was actually meant to come out in the summer, but obviously with the COVID and stuff, I was a bit unsure, but I think soon that one will be getting released. But yeah, man, that's where we're at, I suppose, with the label.
Nice. And we've talking about your label, obviously, got to go back and reference arguably maybe one of the biggest tracks on the label to date. And that's not to say it's going to be the biggest, but it definitely sticks out in my mind, the All Ganja Man release you put out.
Yeah.
Literally was a soundtrack to a lot of festivals and raves for quite a long time. And I'm pretty sure now, if it got dropped in a rave and there was a rave tomorrow, it would go off exactly the same, if not more so.
Yeah, I feel like that is probably... I know for a fact, because I look at the sheets, you know what I mean? Yeah. I look at the documents. I know All Ganja Man is the biggest tune that's ever come out on the label. It was also the first tune. The other tune that's quite big, has done really well, is the Boo and Spider track.
Yeah.
Magic Carpet, you know what I mean? But that was obviously just sort of like a little vocal on the intro, whereas All Ganja Man was like a full, the full vocal. But yeah, like, funny, there's a story behind that tune as well, actually. Like, that tune was originally, we have a mate called Ryan, and he's got a studio at his house. Like, he lives about 30 minutes away from us, and Bomber met him at college, and then, like, we go up there, like, sometimes, and he made a tune, and Spider did that vocal, and he showed me that tune, and I remember saying to him, I was like, that vocal is massive, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the one. That is a big tune. And in the end, like, we felt like, you know, no disrespect to Ryan, he knows this in a way. He's my mate and he's wicked at what he does, you know. But the tune wasn't the tune for that vocal. It didn't feel like it was a good tune, but it would have needed someone else, I felt, to come in and co-produce it and do something. So in the end, I sort of said to Spider, I feel like someone like Serum would be good on it, you know. And in the end, he ended up messaging Serum, and he ended up sort of making the beat for it, and that's how that sort of come about. Like, and that was a tune that we felt was going to be like quite a big tune. Like, it was quite weird, and it was, and it did really well. It was actually the first tune on the label when it sort of like gave us a good sort of. It's a great tune in it to start the label.
It's not a bad starting tune, is it? It's not a bad starting tune at all.
No, that's it. So like. Yeah, we went from the only thing we wish we did with that was maybe we should have done a video with that, you know, like, but like that tune's done really well. We've had so many people re-release it on sort of like collaboration albums and stuff like that, and like Serial Killers things and mixed albums and Nicky Black Market, and that's done really well, man. I mean, funny enough, we've got a remix as well, which I'm sure people probably know, like by T.I.
Yeah,
so T.I.'s done a remix of that. We've had that for about a year. Like, there was 2 remixes that was getting done. I won't say who's doing the other one, but one was like a jump up one, and then T.I. did his sort of roller style one, if you want to call it rollers, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of people ask me about that, so I will just say, like, that we've got no scheduled date for that, but that will be coming soon, you know. We're just sort of still waiting on the other remix, but we're you know, that will come soon. It may happen that we just release that one like on its own, because it is getting to a point where a lot of people are asking for that one.
And people have got zero patience these days. They just they don't want to wait for things, do they?
They don't, and I don't either, and I'm a nightmare. But one thing I like to do with the label, which I haven't said, and it's just my opinion, it's not what everyone does, I like to not put tunes out straight away. So when I sign a tune, I like to try and play it for a year almost, as long as that sounds, and then release it. And that's just my way of doing it. And I like that. I feel like, you know, people know what the tune, like Feeling High, for instance, you know, people know that tune now because it's in every set, you know. And like, that's my style of doing it. And that's why sometimes some of the releases, people get a bit impatient with me because I am a bit long with it, but it's just how I like to do it. All Ganja Man remix with T.I. is slightly different because we're just waiting on the other remix, you know. That's why it hasn't come out, but like, ultimately we might have to just put that out in the end, you know, but we'll see how it goes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's different methods for different people. I run a record label as well, and I'll do something similar. I don't want to just take the tune straight away and put it out straight away. You got to let it breathe a little bit and build up a bit of interest, I guess, and build up a bit of want from people. And obviously it's worked out well because you released a Feeling High tune and bang, straight away, #1 on Juno. So the method's working.
Yeah.
It's definitely working.
Definitely. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't, mate. You know how music is.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
You can have a feel, like you said earlier, you have a feeling about one tune and it's another tune that does really well, you know. So it's just one of them. You just got to do your thing, aren't you? You know what I mean? But that's my style of thinking behind a lot of the releases. I like to, you know, do less releases, but, you know, play them for a good year or so and then just get them out. You know what I mean? Not always a year, and they're not all the same. Some producers who I work with, they got their own way that they might want to work with it, and I'm open to suggestions, you know, and I'll work with them. But yeah, in general, that's the way I want to go. So some people might think that, oh mate, they're long, but yeah, I am long, but
there's a method to the madness.
Method to the madness. Yeah.
So as a personal perspective, not necessarily with the label, it could include your label or it could include Low Down Deep. What have you got coming next? What can we expect release-wise from Slipz in the near future?
I've got a remix coming out for Warden's label.
Yep.
This week, which will, you know, September. I think it's the 25th of September. I've got a remix of a track I did of a Vital track called Mayhem. I've got that coming out.
Yeah.
And I believe that I've got a 2-track release coming with Low Down Deep quite soon, with 2-track, one called Bubbler, and one called Hot Stepper. One of them, Bubbler, was actually just on Harry Shotter's album. He vocaled the track, you know, with the vocal on it. And now it's going to be coming out, like, I've not got a date, actually. I'd imagine it's going to be in the next 2-3 months, do you know what I mean? But that's all I've got music-wise cemented. But then, you know, I'm working on a project which is like, there's no name for it, but it's sort of a collab EP. So it'll be like, let's just say Slipz and Friends. I mean, that's everyone's done something called that. So it probably won't be called that, but it's that kind of vibe. And it'll have like myself and probably, well, me and you, we've got a few bits that we need to finish off. Like it'll have like Logan on there, maybe New Elements, and I'm going to get a few more. I mean, I've got one. Who else is it? I'm trying to think who else I've got. Who else have I got on there? Oh, God, everyone's gone out of my mind. But, yeah, there's a lot on there. Infrared, Black Harry, some of the young Ken. I don't know whether the Kendrick... I've done a tune with Kendrick. I've done a tune with Jappa. I'm trying to do, like, quite a lot of collabs. And, like, in the end, I'll probably end up picking about 6 of them. And that's a project that I really want to do, like, with Low Down Deep. I've spoke to Logan about, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, as well, I'm running the remix competition on the Low Down Deep website at the moment to remix my track Her, which again actually finishes on Monday the 14th. So it's quite late now. It might have even finished by the time this comes out, or be a day or whatever. But that's something as well, you know, like I'm looking forward to going through all them tracks, and that's going to get a release with Subway, I think, because that's what that Hurt came out on, Subway, which is obviously Logan's sister label to Low Down Deep.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've got a release with Dispute that's not been scheduled, anything like that's I've just got a lot of collab tracks really I'm working on, and you know, I'm probably going to have something on. In fact, I better not say because I don't know whether Logan's announced it, but there's something coming soon. I might have a track on there, and just a lot of collabs really at the moment, just for the vibe sort of thing. You know, I've got a lot of half-finished stuff and a lot, you know, and it's just, you know, sometimes a collab just makes things happen, whereas otherwise it just gets sat and left on the computer. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
no, definitely. And I personally, I don't do enough collabs, but I do enjoy doing collabs because it's conversing with another artist and they can come up and say, well, let's try this, let's try that, let's put this in there. And all of a sudden you're like, fucking hell, I'd never even see that because I've got my own tunnel vision of how I make tunes.
Yeah.
You don't even consider
Yeah.
these other things, and it can be something that can completely change the track for the better.
Well, that's sort of like the beauty of flipping doing a collab, you know.
Yeah.
It's not going to sound how you probably visioned it, because you're working with someone else who's got different visions on the track, and I like that sometimes, you know.
Yeah, it's finding a happy medium.
Whether it be one of them tracks where, you know, you worked on collabs and you sent, you know, you sort of sent the main sort of skeleton of the track and it doesn't change much, but they just improve it. That's fine. And I also like it when I send you know, like an idea and it comes back and it's like, wow, that's completely different. You know, it's just, you don't know where it's going to go. And that's the beauty of it. And also, again, I am a guy, like I haven't gone into it, but I mentioned it earlier. I'm not the biggest producer, and I have a lot of tracks that I start and don't finish.
I'm pretty certain if I was to go through, if I was going to go through your computer and go through these tunes, there would be loads of bangers in there that you're probably sitting on thinking, oh, I don't really like that tune, and I'd listen to it and be like, fucking hell, man, like you need to finish that
just
tune.
Like a bass line or a snare or whatever, you're like, well, I can do something with that loop or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
I do it myself. I'm sure we all do it. We go back over, you know, I've got folders 2016, 2017, 2018, and I open some up and I'm like, what's this? This is actually bad.
Don't even remember making it. You're like, what the fuck?
No, that's it. Like, I mean, what I didn't say as well is I just put a free download out last week, right? And it's called Fucking Hell. And I used a sample of a video that went viral of like a little Birmingham, she looks about 4 years old, and it was when the water challenge was going out and they pour water over him. And she's like, fucking hell. And I made that track in about 2016, and I only just put it out the other day because
fucking hell.
It took me about 2 years to finish it, like, because I just want that keen on it. And then once I got it finished and mixed down and that, it was like one tune that a lot of my tunes do get released. I probably got 2 or 3 tunes that never got released that I actually had mixed down and everything and finished, like where it was a final tune, and that was one of them. And I don't know, like I didn't know what to do. I felt like I showed it everyone. I've even had MCs, like, you know, some of our mates MCs have gone, well, that was all right, you know. And I'm thinking, I'm sure I showed it you and you didn't like it, but obviously I didn't, you know. And so yeah, like, I mean, that's a fine example of how tunes can sit on your computer and then you put it out and 4 or 5 years later, you know. So yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to do as many collabs for this sort of EP at the moment, and that's where we're at with it, really, mate. To be fair, nothing too big really planned, no massive release dates, because again, I'm following that thing where I personally spoke to Logan and said I don't particularly want to put too much out because I don't make enough tunes. Being a producer, like producer, or I class myself, you know what I mean? I don't want to waste the tunes that I do make and putting them out, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but it's getting to the point now where I've, you know, like I said, I put that 2-track together, which I'm quite happy with the 2 tracks, you know.
So your free download that you're talking about, where can people go to download that?
It's on my SoundCloud. It is Slipz Dnb on SoundCloud. So it's up there for free download. And yeah, if you want to go and grab it, mate, you know where to go now.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone needs to go and check that out and definitely hit download on that. I've taken up loads of your time. It's been wicked to have a chat. Just before we do sign off, is there anybody you want to give a mention to, or anything you want to squeeze in just at the end before we sign off?
I mean, I'm sure there's loads of stuff we haven't talked about. Maybe we do a part 2 at some point and whatever.
Definitely.
But yeah, we don't want to bore everyone. But yeah, just, I don't know. Like, I mean, everyone who I want to big up knows already, mate. You know what I'm saying? Like, just big up everyone doing the thing, innit? Like, just keep doing what you're doing. And you know, all the people that I work with on the label, and obviously Spider and Bomber and all my mates, you know, that are supportive and whatever. Just big up, man. You know what I mean? All the promoters and stuff like that. Just keep doing the thing.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for having a chat with me. And like I say,
No problem, Charles.
we will definitely do a part 2 because there's probably loads of stuff that I was meant to have brought up that I've completely forgot because I'm fucking useless.
Mate, we're the same. You know what I'm saying? We're just doing it off the cuff, aren't we? Let's just do it.
Yeah, mate. And this is what it's all about. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to do something a little bit different that people aren't particularly doing. And why not sit down and have a chat and find out a bit about some of the artists that everyone listens to?
And big up yourself, yeah, because like this is a good thing, man. It's like I remember when you mentioned it to me before. I said to you that I listen to podcasts when I go to bed. I've always got YouTube on. I fall asleep with YouTube on. You know, I listen to things from Joe Rogan to old school footballers on podcasts to, you know, PlayStation stuff to whatever. So like to have something like this for people to come on and do the thing, it's a good thing, man. So big up yourself.
No, thank you very much, and I appreciate it. I appreciate your time.
No problem, bro.
Cool. So we're going to sign off. Thank you, everybody, for locking on and having a listen, and we will catch you again soon. Big up, Slipz. Take care, mate, and I'll speak to you soon.
Nice one. Respect.